Welcome to the Twisted Nightmares Chronicles. If you're new here, you're about to experience a chilling journey through some of the most terrifying and mysterious events you've ever heard. Make sure you're subscribed and have the notifications on so you never miss a twisted tale from the shadows. For the next few minutes, you're going to hear a story that's not just about a camping trip gone wrong, but something far darker, something that can't be explained by logic, science, or the typical ghost stories you've heard before. This is a true account, told by someone who's tried everything to make sense of the nightmare that unfolded in Chattahoochee National Forest. A nightmare that might still be watching, waiting. The events of that night left scars that no one could heal, and I can't promise this tale will offer any closure. 6 months ago, 5 friends ventured deep into the Georgia wilderness, a place they knew well. What started as a celebration for one of them turned into something much worse, something that left only one survivor to tell the tale. This isn't just a camping story, it's a warning. As night falls, the forest whispers. The shadows shift, and sometimes they're not quite shadows. Something is out there, something ancient and patient. You may not see it at first, but when you do, it's already too late. This story isn't just about a creature in the woods. It's about the things that wait in silence, the things that don't just haunt the past but follow you into the present. Join me as I recount the terrifying events of that fateful night in Chattahoochee. This is more than a recounting of terror. It's a warning. Don't go there, not at night, because whatever is out there remembers, and it won't stop until it finds you. I've spent the last 6 months trying to make sense of what happened that night in Chattahoochee National Forest. The doctors say I'm experiencing PTSD. The police filed it as an unsolved case. My 2 surviving friends won't talk about it anymore. But I need to write this down, if only to convince myself that I'm not crazy. And this is my story. It was supposed to be a 4-day camping trip to celebrate Mike's graduation from Georgia Tech. We'd been planning it for months. Mike, Sarah, Chris, Taylor, and me. We were all experienced campers, having grown up in the Southeast and spent countless weekends exploring the Appalachian wilderness. Chattahoochee was familiar territory. We'd been there at least a dozen times before. The first 2 days were perfect. Early October in Georgia means cool nights and comfortable days. The leaves were just starting to turn, painting the forest in subtle shades of amber and burgundy. We'd found a secluded spot about 8 miles from the nearest ranger station, far enough off the main trails that we hadn't seen another person since our first day. In hindsight, that should have been our first warning. The strange things started on the 3rd night. We'd spent the day hiking to a nearby waterfall, taking photos and enjoying what felt like our last hurrah before Mike moved to Seattle for his new job. Around sunset, we noticed the birds had gone quiet. In October, you usually hear owls and nighthawks taking over as day shifts tonight, but there was nothing, just the sound of wind through the leaves and our own voices around the campfire. Sarah noticed it first, a faint smell like wet copper and rotting leaves. At first, we thought maybe something had died nearby, which isn't unusual in a forest this size. But the smell would come and go, appearing suddenly and then vanishing just as quickly, regardless of which way the wind was blowing. Around midnight, we decided to turn in. That's when we heard it, a sound that still haunts my dreams. It wasn't quite a scream and wasn't quite a howl. It reminded me of the time I'd heard a mountain lion, but different. Wrong somehow. Like someone had taken that sound and twisted it into something that shouldn't exist in nature. Chris, always the skeptic, suggested it was probably just a fox or a bobcat. But I'd grown up hunting with my dad in these woods, and I'd never heard anything like this. The sound came again, closer this time, and even Chris fell silent. We decided to keep the fire going through the night. None of us said it out loud, but we were all thinking the same thing. Whatever was making that sound, we didn't want it getting too close. Taylor suggested we take shifts staying awake. Looking back, I wish we'd just packed up and left right then. I took the first watch while the others tried to sleep. The forest had become unnaturally still, like everything was holding its breath. The fire cast dancing shadows on the surrounding trees, and more than once, I caught myself staring at shapes that seemed to move independently of the flames. Around 2 a.m., during Sarah's watch, we all woke to the sound of something large moving through the underbrush. Not walking, more like dragging itself. The movement circled our campsite just beyond the reach of our firelight. We could hear branches snapping, leaves rustling, but in a pattern that didn't match any animal we knew. That's when Taylor screamed. She was pointing at something beyond the fire's light, and when I followed her gaze, my blood turned to ice. There was something there, a dark shape that seemed to absorb the darkness around it. It was tall, maybe 7 or 8 feet, but it kept changing, like smoke trying to hold a shape. The only solid parts were the eyes, pale, milky orbs that reflected our firelight like a deer's eyes, but much higher off the ground. Chris grabbed his camera and took a photo. The flash lit up the forest for a split second, and in that moment, I saw it clearly. I wish I hadn't. The thing had a vaguely humanoid form, but its proportions were all wrong. Its arms hung down past what should have been its knees, ending in long, pale fingers that dragged along the ground. Its skin looked like wet bark, and its face, God, its face was like someone had tried to carve human features into a tree trunk, but got everything slightly wrong. The flash seemed to anger it. The creature made that horrible screaming sound again, but this time it was so loud it felt like my eardrums would burst. We all ran. We didn't even think about it. Pure instinct took over. We abandoned everything except what we happened to grab in that first moment of panic. I had my flashlight and phone. Sarah had grabbed her backpack. Mike had nothing. We ran through the darkness, branches whipping our faces, roots trying to trip us. We could hear it behind us, moving through the trees with impossible speed. The sound it made was like nothing earthly, a mix of that terrible scream and something that sounded almost like laughter. Mike fell first. I heard him cry out, heard him calling for help, but the thing was between us and him. Sarah tried to turn back, but Chris and Taylor grabbed her and kept running. Mike's screams cut off suddenly, and the forest went silent again except for our panicked breathing and footsteps. We ran for what felt like hours. Taylor was the next to disappear. One moment she was right behind me, and the next she was just gone. No scream, no sound at all. Just gone. The rest of us kept running. We finally broke through the tree line onto one of the main trails. Chris had his phone out, trying to call 911, but there was no signal. That's when we heard Taylor's voice calling from the darkness behind us. It sounded like her, but something was off about it. The voice called Chris's name, begging him to help her. Chris looked at me, then at Sarah, and I knew what he was going to do before he did it. "I can't leave her," he said, and before we could stop him, he ran back into the darkness. We heard his scream about 30 seconds later. Sarah and I made it to the ranger station just as dawn was breaking. The rangers found our campsite later that day, everything exactly as we'd left it except for Chris's camera. The memory card had been crushed to powder. They never found any bodies. The official report says my friends probably got lost in the woods, despite all of us being experienced hikers. They've searched the area multiple times but found no trace of Mike, Taylor, or Chris. Sarah won't go anywhere near a forest now. She moved to Chicago last month, said she needed to be somewhere with lots of lights and concrete. I've gone over that night 1,000 times in my mind. I've looked up every known animal species in North Georgia. I've researched local legends and folklore. Nothing explains what we saw. Nothing explains what happened to my friends. But here's what keeps me awake at night. Every few weeks, I get a text message from Chris's number. The phone company says the number was disconnected months ago. The messages are always the same, coordinates to locations deep in Chattahoochee National Forest. And sometimes late at night, I hear Taylor's voice calling my name from the woods behind my house, even though I live hundreds of miles away now. I know they're still out there, somewhere in those woods. And sometimes when I look out my window at night, I see those pale, milky eyes staring back at me from the darkness, as if to remind me that it's only a matter of time before it comes for me too. I'm writing this as a warning. If you're camping in Chattahoochee and the forest goes quiet, if you smell wet copper and rotting leaves, if you hear something that sounds almost human but not quite, pack up and leave. Don't wait. Don't try to be rational about it. Just leave. Because whatever is out there, it's patient, it can wait, and it remembers. Thank you for sticking with me through this terrifying tale. I wish I could offer more answers, but the truth is, There are some things in this world that don't make sense. Some things that don't just vanish when the morning light breaks. The Chattahoochee National Forest is still out there, waiting for its next victim, and I have no doubt that this story is far from over. If you've ever experienced something similar, or if you know anything that might help explain what happened that night, don't keep it to yourself. Share your story in the comments below, or reach out to me. Maybe together we can start to make sense of what's really lurking in the woods. And for those of you who plan to take a trip into the forest, remember this. Whatever's out there, it remembers. It waits. Don't let your curiosity be the thing that leads you down the wrong path. Trust your instincts. And if the forest goes quiet, if the air feels heavy, leave. That's the only advice I can give you. Before you go, make sure to hit that like button if you found the story chilling, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back soon with more nightmares, more unsolved mysteries, and more dark tales that need to be told. Turn on your notifications so you never miss an update. Stay safe, stay aware, and keep your lights on, because you never know what's lurking just beyond the shadows.